Have you ever noticed how some people treat politics like a smoke machine? Not to solve or to build anything, just enough fog so nobody asks who's actually been driving a car. Because one thing this generation actually figured out is that emotion ages terribly around information. You don't believe me? Watch this.
America is the only country where a liberal will stand in a $3,000 apartment with Edison bulbs, fake plants, and a Save the Planet sticker on the fridge while the AC is fighting for its damn life at 64 degrees because heat anxiety is real. These people will tell you corporations are evil while personally financing Amazon's entire quarterly earnings because they need a mushroom cup, Korean skincare, a tiny spoon for iced coffee videos, and a 40-pack of reusable grocery bags they keep forgetting at home. And every single crisis is literally Handmaid's Tale. Gas went up 12 cents, democracy is over. Someone said Merry Christmas at Target? Fascism has arrived. And these mofos can detect offensive language from 700 yards away, but somehow can't detect sarcasm if it's slapped them in the face with a folding chair. They like to post normalized kindness, then spend 6 straight hours calling strangers Nazis because somebody on Facebook said boneless wings are not real wings. They say America is horrible but lose their mind if Starbucks closes 20 minutes early. They can't survive with things like Wi-Fi or iced coffee, therapy, emotional support water bottles, and a phone charger longer than a CVS receipt. Meanwhile, they hate capitalism, but every single hobby costs money. Their vinyl records, organic candles, thrifted clothes that somehow cost more than new clothes, and artisanal bread that looks like it survived a house fire. These people are the same people who say, tax the rich, while making $42,000 a year and ordering a $31 avocado toast through DoorDash because self-care matters. And every argument online ends the same way. I'm literally shaking right now. No, you're not, Jessica. You type that while sitting cross-legged in pajamas watching Netflix, true crime documentaries, and eating frozen Trader Joe's orange chicken. Meanwhile, normal Americans just trying to mow the lawn and pay rent and watch football or grill something unnecessarily large and survive one family gathering without hearing the phrase late-stage capitalism. But that's our modern America. 55% outrage, 30% caffeine addiction, 10% fast food, and 5% arguing with strangers named Patriot Dad, 1776 at 1:14 in the morning.
Now, the funny part about this clip ain't even the jokes, right? It's the accuracy of the emotional economy that he's describing, right? I ain't gonna lie, he took some of all of us out, though. I know he was describing liberals, but, he got a little, I'll just say because modern politics, man, it stopped being about sacrifice a long time ago. Now it's identity decoration, right? That's why everything has become, it has to become, theatrical, right? Every inconvenience becomes oppression. Every disagreement becomes violence. Every normal person becomes a threat to democracy because they grilled burgers and forgot to post a black square in 2020, apparently. And look how this works psychologically. If you convince people their entire personality is built around being morally aware, then disagreement feels like a personal attack instead of a conversation. That's why sarcasm breaks these people. Sarcasm forces reality into the room. Don't believe me?
Let me introduce you to a word you won't hear on the news. Patriotism. Not patriotism, patriotism. It's when you claim to care about the country, but everything that you advocate is threatening to destroy America. Think about it. Pushing for open borders without a clear and enforceable plan. Patriotism. Expanding welfare programs without serious conversations about limits, fraud, and sustainability. Patriotism. More reliance on the government, less accountability. More reliance on the government, less emphasis on personal responsibility. Patriotism. And if you question any of it, you're labeled as insensitive or fascist. Sure, helping people matters as long as it has structure and accountability. But if your solutions just create more problems that overwhelm the system and make things worse, you are a patriot and you practice patriotism. Probably a Democrat. You don't strengthen the country by pretending resources are unlimited. You strengthen it by reinforcing your boundaries. And that is the difference between patriotism and hatriotism. Pick up a copy of my book, If You Give a Democrat, or The 10 Conservative Commandments. You won't be disappointed.
If you give a Democrat, that's a really clever name right there. If you give a Democrat, okay. See, this is why the word patriotism actually lands, because there's a difference between loving people and loving the feeling of looking compassionate. One builds communities, the other just builds hashtags, essentially. And the left has mastered this performance where every policy gets sold emotionally first, then practically second. You notice that. The conversation is never, does this work long term? It's, if you question this, what kind of person are you? That's not leadership, man. That's emotional hostage negotiation. If the border's overwhelmed, don't discuss solutions. If the cities are collapsing, blame systemic forces. If the schools fail, lower the standards instead of raising expectations. Everything seems to get softened, except for reality.
In the same Democrat politicians I see being deployed today in Democrat-run cities, finding black people like myself and convincing us to go back onto the cognitive plantation. Well, I'm not doing it. Listen, folks, I've been all over the world, literally, from India to Poland to the Caribbean, South Africa, Israel. Don't be ashamed because you're educated. Don't be ashamed because you speak vernacular English. I married a woman who loves my soul. She loves my soul, folks. All these stereotypes that she was raised with were broken when she met me. Yeah, I'm a little eccentric. I'm a little different, as every person should be. They're unique to their own personality. But I encourage you to become acculturated like me. I see a lot of racist people on X pointing out the curated culture that Democrats have formed in the black community, and then saying black people are animals and savages. The heavy hand of the Democrat taskmaster, the Democrat slave owner, the Democrat gatekeepers. Listen, there's a book called Uncle Tom's Cabin. And in this book, Uncle Tom's Cabin, there are two characters by the name of Quimbo and Sambo that the white liberal taskmaster would deploy to get the black folks back onto the plantation. They would find escaped blacks, as they would call them. A group of blacks, like grapes, blacks, they would deploy these two individuals to find said black escaped slave and get them to come back onto the plantation with force, coercion, and suffering. You all saw Roots. You saw what these people did. It wasn't white people that were out there. They sent black folks out there to find these black folks because identity was more than anything. And in the book Uncle Tom's Cabin, they deployed Sambo and Quimbo to find Uncle Tom. They found Uncle Tom, who was trying to free families from bondage, and they beat him to death. And then Democrats turned the colloquialism, Uncle Tom, into a pejorative, into a negative statement, as though Uncle Tom was the demon. When in fact, Sambo and Quimbo were the demons that killed Uncle Tom, who was trying to save his family, trying to save black folks, trying to share the world with them. In the same Democrat politicians I see being deployed today in Democrat-run cities, finding black people like myself and convincing us to go back onto the cognitive plantation. Well, I'm not doing it, and neither should you. And to the racist folks that think that all black folks are the same, how are you going to deal with the likes of me and my family and my children, inventors, scientists, entrepreneurs, engineers? We create the next generation of greatness. You can't paint us. I am a mixed American. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with the fact that my mother had green eyes and long brown hair? How do you deal with that? What are you going to call me, a zebra? You going to call me an Oreo? You're gonna call me a name? And I'm somehow supposed to feel inferior? I'll have you know I graduated Male Citizen of the Year in an all-white school.
And this clip right here is why people get uncomfortable. Not because it's loud, but because it removes excuses without removing dignity. That's different. See, one thing a lot of politicians figured out years ago is that if you keep people emotionally exhausted, they keep evaluating the outcomes. That's why certain cities can struggle for generations under the exact same leadership, and somehow every election still sounds like the sequel to the reboot. You know what I mean? Same speeches, same promises, same blame, different podium. But what he said about shame, I think what he said about shame was really important. A lot of people were taught that success means acting different, speaking properly. You switched up. Thinking independently, you switched up. You're building some sort of structure in your life. Take a wild guess. You switched up. And somehow chaos, it became authenticity. Don't know how, don't know why. That might be one of the most destructive scams ever sold to struggling communities.
Republicans are racist, right? Well, that's what everyone says.
Racist.
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 Racist. Racist.
But which party is the real party of racists? Hey guys, my name's Emma Katz, and I'm about to tell you something you've never learned before because your history teacher didn't want you to know about it. You probably learned that the Democrats have always played a major role in achieving racial equality and justice. I bet you learned about the civil rights movement in the 1960s. But do you know about the civil rights movement in the 1860s?
The civil rights revolution of the 1960s did nothing more than secure guarantees for equal rights and voting rights that had already been put into the Constitution 100 years previously by the Republican Party. More Republicans than Democrats voted for the 1964 Civil Rights Act.
The 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery, passed with 100% Republican support. 77% of Democrats voted against it. The 14th Amendment, which gave black citizenship and equal rights, passed with 94% of Republican support. 100% of Democrats voted against it. The 15th Amendment, which gave slaves the right to vote, passed with 100% of Republican support. 100% of Democrats voted against it. The Ku Klux Klan was a group of crazy racist Republicans, right? Wrong.
The Ku Klux Klan was founded by Nathan Bedford Forrest.
White man's country. Let a white man rule.
He was the first Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan and the pledged delegate to the Democratic Convention.
The KKK targeted over 3,000 black and 1,000 white Republicans. The 1924 Democratic National Convention is even called the Klan Bake because the Democrats refused to condemn the KKK. You know about Rosa Parks, right? But have you heard about Ida B. Wells?
Long before Rosa Parks refused to sit in the back of the bus,
Quit your yelling.
Ida B. Wells refused to give up her first-class train seat to a white man. The reason we don't hear more about this
See what the law has to say about that.
is because Ida B. Wells was a Republican.
What about the big party switch? You know, the theory that everyone in the Republican Party suddenly became racist and everyone in the Democratic Party stopped being racist?
Let's make a list and we'll see who switched. Ready for the big switch? We'll go from Democratic blue to Republican red. So here it is. Yes, that's it. Less than 1%. The big switch is a big lie.
Blacks became Democrats in the 1930s because of the New Deal. Southern whites became Republicans from the 1970s through the 90s as the South was becoming more prosperous. They didn't switch because of racial issues. They switched because of economic reasons. So why did Democrats always blame slavery on Republicans and lie about the big party switch? The same reason why one of the most racist presidents, Democrat Lyndon Johnson, finally signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964. They want the black vote.
Are you saying that today's Democratic Party continues to use blacks for their political advantage?
Absolutely, that's exactly what I'm saying.
And it's up to you and me to educate ourselves and anyone else we can before the next election so that we can stop the real racists from being elected. I got all the clips and basically all the information in this video from Dinesh D'Souza's movie, Hillary's America, and I highly suggest it if you want to learn more about the true history of the Democratic Party. Bye, guys.
Yeah. Now, this is where the conversation gets strategically weird online, because the second anybody brings up political history, suddenly everybody wants to act like history started in 2016. No. People are asking a simple question. If one party has spent decades calling everybody racist, I mean everybody racist, why are people now going back and rereading the timeline for themselves? I really want to know that. And notice, the panic never comes from people researching. Panic comes from people comparing. You know, that's why the reaction online gets so emotional anytime somebody mentions slavery, Jim Crow, the KKK, voting history, or failed city leadership, and all in the same conversation. I say all the time, once voters stop reacting emotionally, they and start grading results like, well, once they stop doing that, they start grading results like a landlord checking property damage or something. I don't know. The jokes are falling flat today. I'm going to keep trying though. But the branding stops working, essentially. And that's what you're watching in real time. Not even a political shift. It's a credibility audit. So if you made it to the end of this video, I want you to put credibility. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah, we're going to keep showing up uninvited. We're going to keep, to these lies. Y'all be safe. Go check on somebody today. You can quite literally be saving their life. Peace.